Western mega news channel CNN strikes again at the one and only Jewish state of Israel with blatant, fictitious propaganda. What happened to protecting minority groups and religions? Stay tuned as we unpack CNN's latest attack on the courageous settlers of Judea and Samaria. Welcome to Israel, guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, we're going to unpack now what the latest attacks on Israel from CNN, blatant anti-Semitic content. What I find fascinating is that the Biden administration right now is targeting, saying we've got to, this is a major problem, we've got to address on the world stage. Anti-Semitism, it's just out of hand. There's so many anti-Israel and anti-Jewish things happening. We've got to get this in check. They've opened, their team has released their national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. But yet again, CNN, one of these major leftist news networks, is broadcasting it constantly. When we talk about a terror attack happening here, they support the terror against the Jews in the streets of Israel. And they don't support the Jewish families and those that lost their loved ones in these attacks. I happen to be a friend of those that were lost there. They're our neighbors. This is discrimination at its finest, and it's being fueled. It's an upside down. It's completely backwards. What's happening in the Biden administration? They're putting out a front to say we're going to stop this, but yet they're fueling it. Remember, we've talked about it incessantly. $2 billion in the last 2 years from the Biden administration directly to the entity. If you kill a Jew, you receive money from them. Okay, so we're going to break this down. How is this happening? We have a front. We so-called say we're trying to stop it, but we're fueling it. That doesn't make any sense to me. What in the world is going on? Let's break it down. CNN, the latest. Here it is. The first line of their article just released a few hours ago. When hundreds of Israeli settlers rampaged through Hawara, the town close to here, and the surrounding Palestinian towns in the occupied West Bank on February 26th, leaving at least one Palestinian man dead and hundreds of others injured. It was billed as revenge after a Palestinian gunman killed two brothers who lived nearby. What's wrong with this? Well, we're going to break it down. What's so blatant and what's the propaganda mixed in here? Well, let's just take a look at this. Maybe the whole world is clueless that CNN is filled with anti-Semitic and Jew-hating undertones that are affecting the globe. And maybe the Biden administration get a hint why this is becoming a problem, because it's what's being spewed out constantly on the news. We've got to stop it. Two brothers were killed. The Palestinian mentioned here, it says, well, let's just start at the beginning. Hundreds of Israelis rampage? Okay, guys, I was there. And again, you can go back and look at the clips. We were there. There was no rampage happening. The rampage was by the Arab locals that attacked the Jews, killing them. No Jews killed Arabs that day, even though they stated it as fact. That is not a fact. That has never been proven. That has been part of the propaganda from the beginning. Yes, someone died, but there's a big town and a lot of Arabs. You can't just say Jews killed him. No, that's not what happened. That has not been proven, and that would have been proven early on if it had been so. There's nothing that indicates wild settlers went in and killed an Arab. That didn't happen. That's not, and to this day, months and months later, that has not been proven. And so we're saying, no, that's something different. That has nothing to do with this story. So don't state it as a fact, CNN, when it has not been proven as fact whatsoever. Hundreds of Israelis rampage, or hundreds of settlers. Now, what were these settlers doing? I was there again. These settlers were saying no to terrorism. They were standing in the roundabouts with Israeli flags. Were they throwing rocks and causing a havoc? No, not the hundreds of them. No, they were peacefully standing saying no to terrorism. There was husbands, wives, children, sons and daughters represented in a protest to say, not on our watch. We will stand in these streets and say, never again will another Jew die on these streets. That was the response of the Jewish community. That's a correct response, by the way, CNN. That's a correct response by the Jewish communities here to say Jewish life matters, and we say no to any kind of hostile enemy that wants to come and steal our sons and daughters. We say no to that. Even though you agree and protest that the killer, the terrorist, was correct and his neighborhood is correct, no, we say no. You say the big problem is, CNN, you say the big problem is Jews living in Israel and so-called occupied. If you call the land the Jewish people have lived in for thousands of years occupied, you've got something wrong. That is incorrect. Again, you're just making up facts on the ground. That's incorrect. Hundreds of Israelis rampage. Wrong. That didn't happen. You again state leaving at least one dead. We said wrong. That is incorrect. You stated it as a fact. It's wrong. And you said one dead and hundreds of others injured. Who were the other hundreds of Arabs that were injured? Again, I was in the town. Who were the hundreds of Arabs injured? Can I tell you the definitions that CNN takes? Just for a minute. CNN, this is a little uncover on your part, but CNN says that Arabs, if they breathe smoke in, they whiff some smoke, that's injured. Jews, or people like myself that were there, that an Arab threw a rock at me and hit my car, we're not even talking about that. You've never heard about that. You've never heard that Jews were attacked. Not only were the two brothers killed, Arabs joined in and attacked Jews on that day, February 26th. They attacked the Jews that were in that town, killing two brothers, and then the whole town celebrated with passing candies, and during the moment, there was celebrations, and what do? The majority support jihad. They support terrorist factions. And so, of course, they support the killing of two brothers from the nearby Jewish community. And of course, they're going to join in if they believe they're going to win. That's why I got hit with an Arab rock. Why have you never heard of that? Were Arabs burning tires? Yes. Were they throwing Molotov cocktails? And just the norm, that's what happens. That's what Arabs do. That's how they protest. That's how they do things. That's how they fight. That's how they put the propaganda out there. To say that wasn't happening is complete falsehood. And to blame it all on the Jews is complete anti-Semitism. Okay? So let's set the record straight here again, once and for all. Settlers were not rampaging through Hawara. There was no one, Jews did not kill an Arab in the town, and there were not hundreds of injured, because my definition of injured is not that somebody smelled smoke. That's not injured, CNN. You can make up content all you want, but that's not injured. Were there tires burning in the streets? Yes. Some of those tires set by Arabs, some by Jews. Yes. There was a protest, and if your friends were killed right in front of your eyes in a town right next to you, it's not okay, but will there be a reaction? Yes. And will there be some factions that are going to be more out there and do things that we would not support? Yes. And the police are there to maintain that. So I don't want to hear any more on the leftist propaganda, those that delegitimize and demonize the nation of Israel, saying that this is a Jewish problem. It's not a Jewish problem. It's a terrorist problem. There's a terrorist bed embedded in the town of Hawara. There's terror beds embedded in every Arab town throughout all of Judea and Samaria, and you're not speaking about that. You refuse to recognize the actual problem within the Arab society here that is taking news in Israel, but you refuse to recognize the actual problem. You write in this article that Arabs, they're just mothers and fathers and children trying to live peaceful lives. Fathers trying to make a living, grandmothers. That's why you wrote this article. If you read the entire article, it's complete discrimination and falsehood against what's actually playing out here. I drive through the Arab town you're talking about nearly every day. Hey guys, we'll be right back. But first, let's imagine a world where hope is restored and shattered lives are rebuilt. This is the mission of Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. Meet the Dahans, a typical Israeli family torn apart by terrorism. One night, their lives were forever changed as gunfire pierced their car, taking the life of their 8-year-old daughter, Leah. The aftermath left the family on the verge of collapse, but Shiloh Israel Children's Fund stepped in. Through their whole family therapy program, the Dahans found healing and strength. Now we have a chance to help 35 families just like them. Your donation to Shiloh will provide tailored therapy programs valued at $2,000, saving families on the brink of falling apart. Together we can make a difference. Click the link in the description below and be a part of rebuilding lives. Your compassion can transform despair into hope and darkness into light. And what are the facts on the ground? Jewish people are afraid to go through this town because of the terror bed that rests there today. Are the Arabs scared? No, the Arabs are not scared of Jews. No, they're not. It doesn't exist. Arabs are not scared of Jews. They're scared many times of the Arab terror beds and the different factions that are operating in their own towns. Again, that's the Arab problem within and those that are fighting and the civil wars going on in Arab towns. Are they afraid of Jews? No, Jews are not killing Arabs. That does not happen, okay? The IDF is here to secure the areas, and that's exactly what they did on February 26th when the brothers were murdered by Arab terrorists. The IDF came in full force to protect the Jewish citizens of this area. You should also note that the Jewish settlers that you so demonize and delegitimize are Jewish citizens of the state of Israel. You cannot delegitimize and you cannot demonize these people. They're a part of the one and only Jewish people, sovereign over their homeland. They live in the land of Israel. This is their home. There's 800,000 of them today. And if you will demonize them on the world stage, you're no different than those that gone before you that demonize and persecute the Jewish people. This cannot continue. And to the Biden administration, who supposedly is trying to stop this, I would suggest that maybe you go to CNN and some of these networks that are producing the content that's leading the masses to fight and to destroy, to attack, to delegitimize, to demonize the Jewish people. And that's what turns into attacks on the streets in New York. The real problem lies in those that are telling falsehoods and stories untrue of what's actually happening here in Judea and Samaria. So I put this out. Please, let's get some restraint. Let's tell some truth. How can it happen? Spread this as much as you can. Let's get the word out of what's actually going down in these areas. Guys, before we continue, do subscribe, like the content. We've got to get this out there. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Guys, I want to talk about one more thing. They talk about the CNN. You would think that this is a trustworthy news source. Now, it's completely misleading. Internationally funded group that's again delegitimizing and demonizing Israel within Israel is called Breaking the Silence. Now, the CNN report quotes them as they're some legitimate organization. This is an illegitimate organization, does not represent the Jewish people. It's funded, again, by leftist entities that are trying to take down and destroy Israel's image on the world stage. So why would you quote them as these people are the say, they have the say of what actually happened there? Of course they don't. And of course they're going to have a backward say, and they're going to side with the enemies of Israel. Terrorists and those that support terrorism are the enemies of Israel, okay? They're backed by Iran, okay? They're backed by Hezbollah. They're backed by Hamas and Fatah and the nearly 20 different terror groups that are operating in this region. How come you didn't know that? Well, you're supporting the wrong people. This is the state of Israel. It'll always be the state of Israel. And why are you supporting the nearly 20 terror factions that are aimed at ridding this land of Jewish people altogether? We've got to turn this boat around, and we've got to quit the misleading information by quoting those that are not legitimate voices in this country. They say, let's wrap this up. They say the settlers in this article, CNN again, says they used brutal violence. Settlers used brutal violence. This is completely backwards, by the way. They rampaged through Hawara, and they were an angry mob. What actually happened? Were they brutally violent? Who was brutally violent? The Arab terrorist was the ones that was brutally violent. No Jewish person in the town of Hawara was brutally violent. The Arab terrorism, the terrorist, and those that supported terrorism are the brutally violent. This is completely backwards, upside down from the real truth. They painted the Arabs here, again, as the victim. How can the Arab be the victim when they're the ones that killed? That's completely backwards. You're incredibly good at making propaganda when you can flip a story completely around and make everybody believe that, oh, these settlers must be the problem. They were just driving through the town, and the Arab terrorists attacked them. You make the story goes into the poor grandmother in the street and the children and the poor that breathed in smoke and the men that were just providing for their families. No, this town supports the killing of Jews. You cannot whitewash that and make it okay. This is evil. Many of as we spoke about, of this town, and as I just said, supported the horrendous acts of evil against the Jewish community. This has to be stopped. Guys, in conclusion, let's stop the propaganda. Let's hold these organizations accountable. Let's let the Biden administration know that we're fed up with this. We cannot, we're not having this anymore. We can't. God is holding them accountable. God will have his final say. The Jewish people will be here today. They'll be here tomorrow. They'll be here forever. We must, as the nations, align ourselves with his people like we never have before. So those individuals that I'm speaking to right now, align yourselves with Israel. Stand and support the Jewish people like you never have before. And if we can, let's hold our nation accountable to supporting the one and only Jewish people and their one and only homeland, Israel. And that includes the heartland, Judea and Samaria. Guys, in wrapping up, subscribe, get the conversation going down below. And as always, tune out the fake news and tune in to what is actually happening here in the heartland of Israel. We will be back every Monday through Friday with your direct connection to land and people of Israel.